43 Sam 6. Captain Black Spider, why hasn't it taken off yet? Soon, the AWACS began to ask Sammy. The runway is still being cleared, and will be taking off soon, Sammy said casually. You don't do this, I see that your runway is intact. AWACS passed the early warning aircraft and directly exposed Sammy on the radio. Okay, we'll take off right away and expect to catch up with you near the border. Sammy has his own calculations, he doesn't want to follow too closely, because his mission is not to escort. If he follows closely, the Thunder and Lightning are stranded near the border. There will be a problem with the timing, and the two pilots of Griffin were only ordered to scramble an hour ago. They did not have time to fully grasp the essence of the mission, but misunderstood that the Thunder and Lightning should be followed closely, performing a secondary escort or supplementary attack missions, which can also objectively attract the attention and firepower of the Indian Air Force for them. At 4,000 meters in the air, the lonely F-16A double plane is getting closer and closer to the border. The Indians seem to be unaware. Major AWACS knows that the Indian Air Force is investing most of its forces and is fighting in the glacier area to the north. I heard that it was shot down in the morning. Got a few F-16Cs. Of course, AWACS also knows that the Indian Air Force 223, Trident, squadron that shot down an F-16A of the Griffin squadron a few days ago is at the Adampur base in the due east. The squadron has not been dispatched for 2 days. Get a good night's sleep. Captain, there should be a barracks there. Asked AWACS wingman. He knew the location of the target, but not the specific characteristics. Roughly right, in a depression with a river ahead and a cricket pitch on one side of the town, AWACS said. From the preset route, the navigation is not complicated. The way the intelligence service identified this as a command post was simple because there was an anti-aircraft artillery position near the house, and a lot of radio communications were measured. AWACS knew that the command post was probably fake, but the anti-aircraft artillery position must have been real. Those escorting Thunderbolts haven't caught up yet? Asked wingman Harun Mahdi. Don't count on them too much. Large aircraft groups are more likely to be detected by radar, which will affect us. We have to attack stealthily. Remember the order of attacks, give priority to attacking anti-aircraft gun positions, and if enemy radars are on, give priority to launching missiles to nearby radars. Why not attack that command directly? We can bypass the anti-aircraft gun positions, the young lieutenant continued. Is this? I think that command is fake, and it is known from above. 5 minutes later, the F-16 formation began to lower its altitude. This was Pakistan's first cross-border counterattack. AWACS knew that such an attack might make a little political sense, but he didn't quite understand why he would choose a relatively flat area, which is different from previous bombing patterns, where India's warning radar has a relatively large range. Some premature exposure may attract the MiG-29 of Trident Squadron. Although he also wants to take revenge on Lieutenant Issa, he is also very clear that the current state of the plane is full of bombs. The MiG-29's on standby. If he were to plan, the ideal plan would be to let Sammy's Thunder and Lightning randomly bombard it, lure the enemy into action, and then hide on one side to ambush the enemy. AWACS never thought that the timing of today's plan was the same as the plan in his mind, except that the main force was not his F-16, but 4 Thunderbolts. The F-16's electronic threat analysis system has been alerting the radiation source in the direction of India. Now, he has found a centimeter wave radiation source that appears over and over again. Obviously, this is some kind of long-range search radar whose main lobe rotates 360 degrees. It is difficult to say whether the Indian side has discovered the two planes. Based on AWACS' past experience, India's long-range search radar is not very efficient, and it can be avoided by lowering the height a little. It seems that we have to descend a little more. Why haven't those Thunder and Lightning appeared? They should at least distract the enemy's attention. After the major finished, he continued to descend. Squad Griffin, the Black Spider squad has taken off and is coming. Colonel Sammy recommends that you increase your altitude a little bit, the AWACS said. This sentence caused Ulhak's alarm, and he suddenly felt that Sammy seemed to be exposing himself to the enemy. You tell the colonel that we can't risk flying too high. Captain Griffin, this area is full of 11th Division anti-aircraft guns and SAM-7s, and I advise you not to fly too low. Sammy's voice. He went directly to the radio station and explained his thoughts to show that he had no selfishness. Colonel, I remember you saying that suddenness is a pilot's best friend. Well, I did say that, but you have to keep an eye on the ground. AWACS can't see those shoulder-fired missiles heading for come here. The colonel didn't seem to be reluctant. Ulhak felt that something was wrong with Sammy today, looking sneaky, and didn't even know where he was hiding right now. Captain Griffin, you have crossed the border, and the target is ahead. The early warning aircraft reminded. Ulhak looked down at the navigation, and had already flown past the penultimate navigation point. The flight route was no different from the preset. This plan has been successful so far, and the Indians are as unresponsive as ever. I found a new source of radiation in the northeast, which seems to be the search radar of SAM-6. Ulhak said. The new findings suggest there may be a battalion of surface-to-air missiles there. Ulhak is very familiar with the establishment of the Indian Air Defense Force. This search radar and guidance radar are often configured in a 1-to-3 configuration. If one such radar can be destroyed, it may be able to paralyze more than a dozen missile launchers of the entire air defense battalion. That's far more valuable than raiding a few bungalows in an infantry division. Captain Griffin, we have already measured the location of the 12-centimeter shortwave radiation source, and the SAM-6 missiles that are maneuvered 70 kilometers away have not yet found that their guidance radar is turned on. I request to attack this position first. Ulhak said his plane was carrying an anti-radiation missile, and he wanted to launch the heavy burden first to reduce the weight of the plane. The Major is familiar with the flight envelope of these old SAM-6 missiles, and as long as he approaches at low altitude, he can launch the Mar-1 missile out of the opponent's range, probably safer than bombing anti-aircraft gun positions. The AWACS paused for a while, as if it was looking for someone to discuss. After more than 10 seconds, the AWACS agreed to the request, and the Major immediately turned to fly towards the target. The colonel pressed the missile's power source and the seeker began to work. It was a long process. The missile's sensitive seeker needed to analyze and memorize the continuous wave characteristics and azimuth of the radiation source. Although those SAMs mounted on the tracked chassis 6 can be deployed maneuverably, but this long-range E-band radar may not be able to escape in time. At the same time that the sign that the anti-radiation missile was allowed to launch lighted up, the other party's guidance radar began to shine on the F-16. Now that both sides are on the edge of each other's missiles' flight envelopes, it's up to who has the more composure, although of course the situation is more advantageous for agile aircraft. According to the known characteristics of such Indian missiles, their attack distance to targets at a height of 500 meters is very close, but the known data is inevitably wrong, and it is time to verify the correctness of these claims.